My fiancé, Caspian Knight, is a reputable healer in the werewolf pack. His childhood friend, Sarah Gard, has been diagnosed with organ failure. It is fatal, and she has only 1 month left. To stay by her side in her final days, Caspian makes me drink the potion, and my wolf falls unconscious. During the month when my wolf is unconscious, I'll begin to forget about him completely. He doesn't know that the effect of the potion will last a lifetime, and I won't remember him for the rest of my life. Within the same month, he holds a wedding ceremony with Sarah. He hugs Sarah tightly under the falling petals. They hold each other's hands and receive blessings from everyone. A month later, he cries uncontrollably and goes down on his knees in front of me, questioning why I have yet to remember him. Chapter 1. Caspian Knight held a glass of milk and walked up to me. He said, "Drink some. It's good for your health." His tone was gentle as usual, like the morning breeze in the spring. However, his hand exposed a rare side of him. He was nervous. I took the glass and sipped on the milk, and the warmth filled my heart. "Is Sarah dying?" I asked softly as I looked into his deep-set eyes, searching for an answer. Caspian's eyes suddenly flickered. He avoided my stare and sighed. "It'll be within a month. She's still so young." His voice was tinged with a sense of regret. It sounded so different from his usual calm and confident tone. I furrowed my brows slightly, a strange feeling surging within me. "You seem a bit emotional." I probed. Caspian shook his head and forced a smile. "No. I simply feel a bit guilty for neglecting you these days." As he said that, he caressed my hair, and a conflicted look flitted across his eyes. I stared at him, consumed by a gamut of emotions. Caspian was never good with words. He had always remained composed and rational when handling things at work or in life. But now, he seemed much more sentimental than usual. "Lydia, do you know that? I love you forever." His voice was low but extremely firm. I was stunned, for I rarely heard those words from him. His affectionate confession was rather sudden. It was as though he was making up for something. "What's wrong? Why did you suddenly say so?" I plastered on a smile, trying to ease the depressing feeling that sank in abruptly. Caspian merely looked me in the eyes without saying a word. But the myriad of emotions in his blue eyes were solid proof that something was wrong with him. It was just that he didn't want to tell me. "Nothing. I'm heading for the lab. I still need to compile some medical data," he replied abruptly. Then, he turned around and wanted to leave. He sounded like he was in a hurry. I was taken aback. My gaze fell upon him, and I noticed that he had buttoned his shirt wrong. Even his tie hadn't been done properly. He looked disheveled, and it was such a stark contrast to his usual cool, sharp appearance. Every single detail. He was serious and responsible. It was impossible that he would look this unkempt. "Why are you in such a hurry? Aren't you coming back tonight?" I asked, my suspicion rising. I wondered what had happened. He turned around and smiled reluctantly. "Nope. We're at the most critical stage in developing the new medications, so I have to speed things up." With that, he left in a hurry, as though someone was chasing after him. I frowned as I stared at his back, feeling uneasy deep down. Caspian had always been steady, but his unusual act that day stirred up a baffling feeling in me. Secretly, I trailed him. When I saw him drive past the lab and head for the hospital, my heart sank. His car pulled over in front of the hospital. Then, he swiftly got out of the car and rushed to Sarah Gard's ward. I smiled bitterly and followed him, then finally stopped in front of the ward. In the ward, Caspian was taking care of Sarah attentively. I should have expected this. He still couldn't let Sarah go. Chapter 2. The night fell, silence filling the air. In the dark, I sat in the living room, alone and lost in the storm of emotions. Through the curtain, the moon cast its glow upon my body, forming a lonely shadow. It was 3 a.m., and I finally heard the familiar footsteps from the door. The door was pushed open gently, and Caspian appeared. He was stunned when he saw me. "You knew that I went to take care of Sarah." His voice was low and calm, without a hint of surprise. It was as if he had expected this. Raising my head, I looked through the darkness and met his eyes. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you go there secretly?" I asked gently. My voice was trembling slightly, but it was barely noticeable. "He knew I would be mad." Caspian let out a sigh and gradually walked up to me. Then, he sat down and explained, "Lydia, I didn't tell you because I was worried that you'd be mad. Sarah has only a month left." He sounded extremely helpless. "I know you don't like it when I approach her, but I can't just leave her like that. She's dying. So, are we postponing our mate bonding ceremony?" I asked. He paused for a bit and took a delicate bottle out of his pocket. It was filled with a light blue liquid. "This is the memory potion, and I developed this myself. After taking this, it'll suppress a part of your wolf momentarily. You'll temporarily forget everything that happened this month. After Sarah is gone, we'll proceed with our mate bonding ceremony." I stared at the potion and felt an indescribable fear creeping up. "What if I forget about you?" My voice was soft but laced with worry. Caspian fell silent for a brief moment, then held my hand gently. "No, Lydia. I'm the best healer in the pack. I have faith in my capabilities." His voice was firm and resolute. It sounded like he was assuring me, but at the same time, he was convincing himself. I lowered my head, tears welling up in my eyes. I knew I would forget about everything that had happened in this month after I took this potion. However, if I didn't take it, I would have to watch him spend the final moments of Sarah's life with her. "Lydia, trust me. This is the best solution," Caspian assured softly, and it sounded like a plea. I raised my head and stared at his deep-set, blue eyes. A sense of melancholy overtook me. I used to see myself only in those eyes, but now, there was someone else. My hand was trembling as I took the potion, and I finally burst into tears. "Do you really have to stay by her side?" I asked reluctantly, holding on to the slightest bit of hope. Caspian seemed to feel bad, but soon, he regained his composure. "Lydia, you know that. She only has me in this world," he stated firmly, leaving no room for doubt. I was taken aback. I stared at his blue eyes, which used to look so gentle. But now, they had become so cold, and I could hardly recognize them. Tearing up again, I held the potion in despair. "Okay, I'll take it," I muttered, but my voice was infused with sorrow and desperation. As I drank the potion, I secretly swore that I would never love this man again. The bitter and icy potion ran down my throat, taking away all the warmth and hope I held on to. I drank it so quickly that I choked and started coughing aggressively. Upon seeing that, Caspian immediately walked up to me and patted my back lightly. "It's okay, Lydia. Everything will be okay." His voice was low but gentle, as if he were comforting a terrified child. As I stared at his deep-set, blue eyes, I was overwhelmed with a mixture of sorrow and anger. He used to be so deeply in love with me, but now, he was erasing the memories between us. The potion began to take effect, and I started to lose consciousness. The world around me was gradually fading. "Lydia! Lydia! Wake up!" I heard my inner wolf calling me anxiously, but its voice became increasingly faint until I could no longer hear it. "I love you, Lydia." Caspian's voice rang out from afar, tinged with anxiety and affection. I tried my best to open my eyes. Through my blurry vision, I seemed to see his anxious face. "Who is Caspian?" I mumbled, my voice faint. Then, everything plunged into darkness. Chapter 3. A few days had passed. The morning sun poured through the window and cast a glow upon my face. I gradually opened my eyes and felt a splitting headache. "Lydia Zeller. Why did you only wake up now? You didn't attend the mate bonding ceremony yesterday. Why did Caspian marry Sarah? I thought the two of you had confirmed to be each other's mate." The deafening voice of my best friend, Eva Newman, and the knock on the door echoed in the room. Rubbing my temples, I tried my best to recall who this Caspian she mentioned was, but my mind was blank. "Eva, who is Caspian?" I asked in confusion. Eva was dumbstruck. She stared wide-eyed at me like she was looking at a freak. "Lydia, are you okay? Caspian is your fiancé." Frowning, I swept my gaze across my surroundings. I was the only one on the single bed, and I was alone in those artistic photos on the wall. I grabbed my phone to check the contact list and photo album, but I couldn't gather any information about Caspian. It was as though that person had never existed in my world. "Look. Did you forget all this?" Eva took a stack of photos from her bag and handed them to me. In the photo, I was hugging a tall, handsome man tightly and smiling brightly. Somehow, I felt my heart aching when I saw the man. I couldn't help tearing up. "This is us?" I asked in a trembling voice. Eva felt sorry as she looked at me, then nodded. "Yeah. This is the two of you." "Lydia, what happened? Why did you suddenly forget about Caspian?" I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. "I don't know. I really don't remember him." Clenching her jaw, Eva called Caspian and turned on the speaker mode. On the other end of the line, Caspian's cold and distant voice rang out. "Hello, who is it?" "It's me, Eva. Tell me. What happened between you and Lydia? Why did she suddenly forget about you?" Eva roared furiously. It was silent on the other end of the line. Then, Caspian's indifferent voice sounded. "What are you talking about? I don't understand. Stop calling me." As soon as he finished speaking, Sarah's coughing could vaguely be heard in the back. Eva ended the call angrily, her gaze full of distress. "Lydia, how could he do this to you?" I lowered my head, tears rolling down my face and spreading on the photo. I asked, choking up, was I in love with him? Why didn't I remember anything about him? Eva held my hand tightly, her gaze determined. "Lydia, I'll help you regain your memory." She tried various methods and finally found the surveillance footage of Caspian and Sarah's wedding ceremony. As the footage played before my eyes, I felt a sharp pain in my chest again. In the video, Caspian and Sarah stood amid the bed of violets. They held each other's hands, their gazes filled with affection. Violets symbolized faithfulness. If Caspian were my fiancé, why would he be with someone else? It just didn't make sense to me. Eva smashed the glass on the table indignantly, her eyes red. "That jerk! How could he do this to you?" Staring at the familiar yet strange figure in the footage, I only felt lost. I looked up and stared at Eva, my voice trembling as I said, "Forget it, Eva. I don't want to remember him." No matter what my memories of Caspian were, I didn't want to recall them. It didn't matter anymore, for he had become someone else's mate. Eva hugged me tightly and teared up. "It's okay, Lydia. You'll meet someone better. It's not worth feeling sad because of him." Eva wanted me to get some fresh air, so she took me on a trip to the beach. The sunlight, beach, and sea were perfect. At the same time, Caspian was traveling around the world with Sarah, living their happy life. Sarah had even sent their intimate photos to me on purpose. She seemed to be showing off and provoking me. I was unmoved when I saw those photos because I didn't know Caspian. Even if Caspian used to be my fiancé and we used to be in love, that was the past. Everything had been reduced to ashes, and the cold reality was the only thing left. Eva deleted those photos furiously and widened her eyes as she looked at me. Lydia, did you really let him go? I raised my head and flashed a smile of relief. Yeah, I did. Chapter 4. Meanwhile, Caspian was overwhelmed with confusion and unease. After wrapping up the grand wedding ceremony with Sarah, they began traveling around the world. As the nobles of the pack, they traveled to numerous beautiful countries, enjoying their luxurious and romantic vacation. Everywhere they went, Sarah would excitedly take photos with him and share them with everyone she knew. She couldn't even hide her happiness and satisfaction. While Caspian accommodated her request and smiled, he couldn't escape the gloom deep inside him. At night, they stayed in the most luxurious palace. Caspian stood in front of the window, watching the starry sky. He whispered, feeling conflicted, Lydia, are you doing fine now? I miss you. Over the month, he had indeed spent a great time with Sarah, who was warm and vibrant, and that made him forget temporarily how he had longed for me. However, he still thought of me in the still of the night. He wanted to contact me, but it hadn't been a month. I wouldn't remember who he was now. Somehow, he could sense something slipping away. As time passed, Caspian grew increasingly uneasy. It has been a month. Why isn't Lydia contacting me? Caspian couldn't help clenching his fists. Anxiousness flitted across his eyes. He clearly remembered that the potion he had given me would only be effective for a month. His initial plan was to make me forget about him for a month. During this period, he would stay by Sarah's side and fulfill her last wish. The effect of the potion would wear off after a month, and I would remember him again. Then, he would make up for it and hold a grand mate bonding ceremony for me. After all, he was truly in love with me. He had only held the wedding with Sarah out of sympathy. But now, a month had passed. I still didn't contact him. Did she forget about me completely? Caspian's heart wrenched, and he couldn't bring himself to delve further. He tried to comfort himself, thinking that I was merely upset with him and that I would soon be in touch with him. Nonetheless, whenever he took his phone and saw the familiar name on the contact list, he would be haunted by a deep sense of distress. No way. I can't keep waiting like this. Caspian took a deep breath and decided to reach out to me. Just as the call was connected, a cold beep sounded from the other end of the line. My number was no longer in use. Lydia, you're just upset with me, right? You deliberately changed your phone number and avoided me so that I'd look for you myself and apologize, right? Caspian smiled dotingly, his gaze full of resignation. He strongly believed that I was upset with him, and he thought I was taking my revenge on him. Okay. Lydia, you won. I'll look for you right now and apologize to you personally. Caspian took a deep breath and turned around to leave the room. Then, he found the largest local florist. He handpicked the brightest red roses and drove straight to my house with the bouquet. On his way there, he had been practicing how to apologize to me and win my heart again. Finally, he arrived at my house. He took a deep breath and pressed the doorbell. Holding the bouquet he had picked with all his heart, he breathed in, trying to calm himself down. I opened the door and appeared right before him. I wore a simple white dress, and my long hair cascaded down my shoulders. I was perplexed as I stared at him. Lydia, Caspian's voice trembled slightly. He stared intently at me as if he wanted to engrave this sight in his mind. Lydia, I'm here for you. We can finally be together now, he continued. With that, he handed the bouquet of roses to me with a hopeful expression. I know you're mad, but trust me. I truly love you. Now that Sarah has fulfilled her dream, we can start all over again. Lydia, I'll hold a mate bonding ceremony that's more magnificent for you, and I'll make you the happiest woman in the world. However, I merely looked at him in confusion without a hint of joy. Baffled, I gradually asked, "Who are you? Do I know you?" Chapter 5. The smile on Caspian's face froze. He stared wide-eyed at me and couldn't believe what he had just heard. "Lydia, what are you talking about? You don't know me." I shook my head confusedly, and my eyes were dazed. "I'm sorry, but I really don't remember you." Caspian was taken aback. The bouquet of roses in his hand fell on the ground, and the petals scattered everywhere. "No way, the effect of the potion is likely gone now. You should have regained your memory," he mumbled. Suddenly, he seemed to recall something, and things seemed to click in his mind. "Lydia, I know you're mad at me, but don't do this. I feel hurt when you do this," he said as he stepped forward, attempting to grab my hand. Terrified, I quickly took a step back and kept my guard up. "Stay away from me. I really don't know you." Caspian was stunned. He stared at me as though he were looking at a stranger. "Lydia, stop fooling around, okay? I was wrong. I shouldn't have neglected you for so long. It was because Sarah was dying. I only wanted to help her fulfill her last wish. Now, it's all done. We can start over again," he said. Just then, he reached out and pulled me into his embrace. "Lydia, I love you. I really love you. I'll hold a greater mate bonding ceremony for you and make you the happiest woman in the world." I struggled to free myself from his grip, but he was too strong. So I couldn't even move an inch. Just then, a cold voice sounded from the door. "Caspian, let Lydia go." I raised my head and saw Eva standing at the door. She was holding a stack of photos, her face livid. "Eva, what are you doing?" Caspian released me and turned to look at Eva. A hint of panic flashed in his eyes. "What am I doing?" "I'm here to expose your true colors," Eva said as she flung the photos in front of Caspian. "You spent a month with that woman who suffered from organ failure, but now you're here for Lydia. What are you trying to do?" Those were photos of Caspian and Sarah's wedding ceremony. There was also the chat history of Sarah provoking me after that. No way. Caspian's face turned as white as a sheet. His hand trembled as he picked up the photos. He couldn't seem to believe his eyes. "Where did you get these photos? How could Sarah? Was there anything she wouldn't dare to do? You held a wedding ceremony with her and gave her hope. But now, you're here to bother Lydia. You and Sarah are a perfect match." Eva sneered, her gaze burning with fury. "Caspian, you jerk. You don't deserve Lydia." Caspian's face turned livid, then pale again. He gripped the photos tightly and suddenly raised his head to look at me. "Lydia, listen to me. It was only because Sarah was dying. I only wanted to spend her remaining days with her. My feelings for you have never changed." I shot him a cold look and was utterly disappointed. "Caspian, you don't have to explain anything to me. The past is in the past." With that, I turned around and closed the door, blocking out his voice. I thought Caspian would give up completely after this incident. However, I hadn't expected that he would pursue me like crazy. Every day, he would wait in front of my house with a bouquet of roses and tried every way to meet me. If I didn't leave the house, he would keep waiting from day to night, and he wouldn't even eat. When I left the house to go to work, he would secretly follow behind me, and I could never shake him off. Moreover, he would put on all kinds of pitiful acts, trying to make me feel moved. Chapter 6. It was raining heavily that day when Caspian came to my house again. He was holding a silver knife and slitting his arm relentlessly. The silver knife burned his wound, and it couldn't be healed. Blood kept dripping on the floor. His shirt was instantly drenched in blood, but he didn't seem to feel the pain. He merely stood at the door of my house like a fool. Lydia, I know you're inside. Listen to me. I really love you. Please give me another chance. His voice was hoarse and desperate, and he sounded like he had lost all strength. If you refuse to see me, I'll stay here and let my blood flow until I die. I stood behind the door and watched, but I remained unmoved. Not long after, Sarah rushed here, holding an umbrella. Upon seeing that Caspian was covered in blood and lying on the floor, she instantly felt her heart ache. Lydia, you're such a vicious woman. How could you be this cruel to Caspian? Look at him. He's become like this because of you. Open the door if you love him. Sarah cried and cursed. Outside the house, but I only frowned in puzzlement. Sarah, you got it wrong. I don't even remember him, so why would I love him? Anything between you two has nothing to do with me anymore. Caspian kneeled on the floor, his tears and blood streaming down with the rain. Lydia, please. Give me another chance. I was wrong back then, and I lost my mind. But my feelings for you are real. I stared at him but felt nothing at all. Caspian, get up. We can never be together again. Caspian was stunned. He looked up at me, his gaze full of despair. Why? Lydia, why can't you forgive me? You're trampling on my dignity. Do you know that? You actually regained the memory of our past long ago, right? You do this on purpose to torture me. I shook my head. I didn't recall anything. My wolf was damaged after I had taken the potion. Every memory of Caspian was gone, and he was nothing but a stranger to me. In the end, Sarah sent Caspian to the hospital. He had lost too much blood, and his life would be at stake if he dragged this any longer. The next few days, Caspian didn't come to pester me. Sometimes, I heard news about him from Eva. I heard that Sarah had been taking care of him all day and night in the hospital, and he had been moved. Nonetheless, when he thought of how he had lost me because he had stayed by Sarah's side, he was consumed by guilt again. A week later, he found a file in the hospital. It was a medical report of Sarah's organ failure diagnosis at that time. However, there was a row of tiny words at the bottom of the file that read, "The patient requested to fabricate this report. All consequences were at their own risk." Caspian's face became sullen as he read the file. He finally understood that Sarah had plotted all this. She had fabricated a medical report of her organ failure to make Caspian feel guilty and marry her. Sarah had done all this only to have him. She wanted to provoke me and ruin my relationship with Caspian. Caspian clenched his fists, anger flashing in his eyes. He hadn't expected that he would be fooled by Sarah. Moreover, he hadn't expected to hurt me because of a woman like this. When Sarah went to visit him in the hospital, he lost it on the spot. Chapter 7. Sarah, you bitch. How dare you lie to me? Caspian roared and gripped Sarah's neck. First, you fabricated the medical report and took advantage of my guilt for you. Then, you made me marry you and hurt Lydia. What a shameless woman. Why would I even fall for you? Sarah was choked by Caspian, and she was suffocating. She stared at Caspian in horror, her eyes full of desperation. Caspian, listen to me. That's not true. I simply love you too much. Shut up. What rights do you have to talk about love? Caspian shook her off forcefully before grabbing a bottle of poison from his pocket. You love me, right? Drink this to prove your love, then. With that, he gripped Sarah's chin and poured the poison into her mouth. The nurse who came to do Caspian's dressing witnessed that. She screamed and dashed forward to pry Caspian's hand away. Then, she sent Sarah to the emergency room. They managed to rescue Sarah in time, and she survived. However, her wolf died because of the poison. From then on, she became a weak, lowly werewolf. After Caspian left the hospital, he came to my house again. He kneeled in front of me and kept explaining that nothing had happened between him and Sarah, hoping that I would forgive him. He clutched the sleeve of my shirt tightly and said with pleading eyes, "Lydia, trust me. Nothing happened between us. My heart is only for you, and the one I love is you." I looked at him and felt extremely sick. "Caspian, just go. I don't want to see you again," I said coldly. Then, I turned around and wanted to go back to my room. However, Caspian grabbed me and took out a bottle from his pocket, and a frantic look flashed in his eyes. "Lydia, I won't give up. If you still refuse to forgive me, I'll make you recall everything about us with this medication. This is a medication I've just developed. It can awaken your wolf completely and make you regain all your memories." As he said that, he wanted to force the medication down my throat. Horrified, I screamed and struggled. "Caspian, let me go. I don't want to drink it. No. If you love me, just trust me. Drink it." Caspian barked and exerted more force on his hands. I struggled in despair. I had no idea what would happen after I took this medication, but I knew I didn't want to have anything to do with him. Nonetheless, Caspian refused to let me go. He squeezed my mouth and attempted to pour the medication in. Just then, Eva came back. Fuming, she shoved Caspian away and helped me to the side. Chapter 8. "Caspian, you psycho. How could you do this to Lydia?" Eva hollered furiously and blocked in front of me. Caspian was pushed away and stumbled to the ground. The bottle in his hand rolled to the side, and the liquid spilled on the floor. "Lydia, is it true that you don't love me anymore?" Looking hopeless, he cast his gaze upon me. I hid behind Eva and shivered slightly. "Caspian, our relationship ended long ago." Caspian stood rooted to the spot and couldn't gather his thoughts even after a long time. He couldn't fathom why we had reached this stage when we used to be so deeply in love. He also couldn't understand why I hadn't regained the memory of our past when my inner wolf had been awakened. "Why? Lydia, why did you refuse to remember me? Do our memories mean nothing to you?" Caspian mumbled, and he sounded so miserable. I looked at him and sighed. "Caspian, just leave. I'll never remember you." Caspian was stunned and looked up at me as he asked, "Lydia, what are you talking about?" "I forgot about you, not because my inner wolf wasn't awakened, but because it had been awakened long ago." Caspian stared wide-eyed at me in disbelief. This is impossible. If your inner wolf had been awakened, why couldn't you remember me?" "Because I'm completely disappointed in you." My words hit Caspian like a thunderbolt. His face drained of color, and he quivered slightly. "No, impossible, Caspian, leave. Stop bothering me." With that, I shut the door. Caspian stared at me and seemed to lose all his strength. "Why? Why did everything turn out like this?" he muttered to himself and left despondently. Chapter 9. A few months later, when I was with the pack in the north, I met Caspian on the street by chance. He seemed like he had been through a lot, and one could tell how exhausted he was from his gaze. When he saw me, he was stunned momentarily before smiling bitterly. "Lydia, it has been a while." I gave him a cold look without saying a word. I took the memory potion to forget you, but I still remember you." Caspian hung his head low and choked up. I frowned, and I was slightly moved, but indifference soon overtook me. "Caspian, it doesn't matter whether you took the memory potion or not," I said nonchalantly and spun on my heels to leave. "Lydia, hold on." Caspian called out to stop me. He looked up with pleading eyes. I was wrong. I really learned my lesson. Could you give me another chance? I looked at him, and my voice was calm and steady. Caspian, our relationship ended a long time ago. You can't change the fact, no matter what you do. My tone was cold but resolute, leaving no room for discussion. Caspian was taken aback by my reply and fixed his eyes on me in despair. Why? Why can't you forgive me? Because I'm completely disappointed in you, I repeated. Every word was like a knife stabbing Caspian right in his chest. His face paled, and he began quivering. After a long time, he muttered, so the potion can't kill love, but disappointment will. His voice was low and hopeless. He was mumbling to himself, but it also sounded like he was talking to me. I glanced at him and sighed. Then, I turned around and left. Meanwhile, Caspian stood at the same spot as he watched me walk away. After returning home, I sat in front of the window by myself. I had mixed feelings as I stared at the moonlit night sky. I couldn't help lamenting when I thought of Caspian's hopeless gaze. We had been so deeply in love, but things turned out like this. Maybe it was a wicked twist of fate. Later, I heard that Sarah died from organ failure after Caspian forced her to drink the poison, and he was arrested for murder. Before he received his punishment, he requested to meet me. I hesitated for a long time but turned him down in the end. Lydia, do you want to go? Maybe this is the last time you get to meet him, Eva said. She knew our past and understood my struggles. I shook my head, my gaze determined. It's okay, Eva. I had already let go of my past and began a new life. I don't want to have anything to do with Caspian anymore. After saying that, I turned around and went into my room. Eva was left there, sighing. I didn't go to the site when Caspian received his punishment. Because I didn't want to see his last look, and I certainly didn't want to dwell on the past again. I knew that everything had ended. Things would never work out for me and Caspian. And now, I was no longer as weak as before. I had a new life and a new start. I would do my best to survive and uphold the peace that I had fought so hard for. As for Caspian, he was only a part of my past memory, one that made my heart ache and made me grow. The soft glow spilled over the window. I raised my head and saw the moon up in the sky. It was so bright and full, seemingly telling me that everything would be better. I smiled and felt a weight off my shoulders. Yeah, everything would be better.